John, you are eating that microphone. Yeah, you can't do that on that microphone. Yeah, actually, yes, that's how that microphone works. That's what I keep telling you. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Also, you're
hey
muted on
guys, I
stream.
have to blame the substances I've partaken because I forgot to unmute John.
Wow, Derek. Wow.
It's
Holy
all by
fucking
design.
shit.
The
Starting off
completely
with
legal
a bang.
substances that I partook.
Fucking amazing.
Yeah. Bam.
So Britt is supposed
I gotta
to be
fix
here.
that. Britt'll be here
I
soon.
think the chat is asking to mute him again.
Yeah.
No, nobody do that. Nobody should do that. Jeff Grubb says, go back to the way the show used to be in the good days when John was muted.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got multiple requests to mute John.
I do it often enough.
I remember 1 minute ago. Remember that?
CJ's already thinking back to a happier time in his life 5 minutes ago when I was muted.
Seconds ago.
After Derek unmuted me, he became bitter and cynical. Good evening, everyone. Glad everyone seems to be doing okay. I missed you guys. I miss you guys every week, but man, oh man, I've had a shitty few weeks at work.
Whole gang was together.
Yeah, except for Britt.
Hey, Britt will be here.
She'll be here.
Britt has promised she will be here shortly.
She'll be here. So, guys, 2021 is in the rearview mirror, and tonight we're going to talk about our games of the year for 2021. Now, each of us has a game of the year, and each of us has a runner-up for game of the year.
It's fucking solitaire.
Some people. So hold on. So this is SDGC after all. So half of our choices are guaranteed to delight you, and half of our choices are guaranteed to piss you the fuck off. But it's our podcast, not yours. So
you always make this podcast sound like every edgy podcast run by nothing white dudes,
And he's right.
We're not edgy.
I came around on Balan Wonderworld, and I'm going to explain why.
In this world,
we've been through that
after
discourse.
A lot of self-reflection.
You know what?
CJ really changed his mind.
So we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
So,
John, do you want to get it out of the way and tell us why and how Final Fantasy VI qualifies for a 2021 game of the year?
I sure do.
Well, you see here, it is part of the
Finn was
Pixel
like,
Remastered
nope,
series of
my
games.
job.
Which that one hasn't released yet.
Right, but
Yes,
I'm already
The series is released.
But
it's Final Fantasy VI,
if-
Justin.
No, but John, if you bought the bundle, technically you bought Final Fantasy VI Pixel Remaster in
that's true.
2021.
That is
which
very true.
vis-a-vis concordantly means I can make Final Fantasy VI Pixel Remaster my game of the year.
You haven't
Vis-a-vis-
played it yet.
What are you, the architect from the Matrix?
Yes, that
Vis-a-vis,
is
ergo,
that's exactly what I'm quoting. Thank you.
concurrently. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go around the horn.
Mute John.
I'm gonna mute you. I'm gonna mute your life in a minute if you don't let me finish my sentence.
There's no way that sounded cool in your head.
You know what?
No way.
Justin, if you knew what sounded cool in my head, you'd
know
fucking.
because I muted him.
Oh, man.
All right, cool. We can get on with the show.
I wanted to hear about Final Fantasy VI, guys. All right, come on.
Muted? Am I muted or not?
You're not muted. I'm not going to do it
I'm
again.
muted. Okay,
We've
so
had enough of the gag. I don't overplay a gag. So
neither do I. So what we're going to do right now is we are going to go around the horn, and we're going to start with our runners up. Right. We'll each talk about what our runner up for game of the year is. And after that's done, we'll loop back and we'll talk about our game of the year. People are allowed to have overlapping games of the year. So for example, if somebody's game of the year is Balan Wonderworld, Jeff's game of the year is Balan Wonderworld. You guys can talk about that. Okay. So why don't we start so Britt's not here. I was going to start with Britt, but she's not here. So why don't we start with our producer, Derek? do you want to launch us into your runner-up for Game of the Year
Yes.
for the year of
I
our
can-
Space Wizard 2021?
I can do that. So my runner-up for Game of the Year is Metroid Dread. I know everyone knew Metroid Dread was going to be somewhere, probably multiple places for multiple people on this podcast. Metroid Dread's my runner-up Game of the Year. You all know I am a Metroid respecter. I am a Metroid Fusion respecter, especially. I want to give time for somebody who will pick this game as Game of the Year because I know it's coming to talk about it more in detail. But I thought Metroid Dread was a perfect comeback for the franchise, and it made me excited for the future of 2D Metroid again, which is a very weird fucking thing to say in the 2020s, but here we are.
Our review for that game, Derek, was one of my favorite pieces of content that we did last year.
So like I said, we'll talk more about Metroid Dread later because I know it's coming up in the Game of the Year section. So I'll leave the deeper discussion for then.
Joke's on you. I'm gaming the system by not picking it because I know John will pick it, so I can talk about it then. I get 3 games.
You don't know what I'm going to pick. Like, for example, everybody here is probably assuming that one of my Game of the Year, or one of my Game of the Year, either run-up or Game of the Year, would be Endwalker, but it's not.
No, it's Metroid.
Yeah, but it's Metroid Dread. So
Yeah.
Because, well, I don't consider Endwalker the criteria I set for myself was I'm not going to do expansions or remakes or remasters or anything like that. It's going to be something new, right?
Right.
And so my runner-up for Game of the Year 2021 was Resident Evil Village. Resident Evil Village was fucking out. I love Resident Evil, and Resident Evil 4 is one of my favorite games of all time. So when I learned that we were getting a lot of callbacks to RE4, essentially, I mean, this felt like a spiritual successor to the game.
John?
There was.
I think we might be about to be each other's inverse clone Game of the Year pick people.
Okay, that's fine. This is allowed. This is allowed.
Yeah.
Resident Evil Village took everything I loved about RE4 and kind of retrofitted it into that new, first person, Resident Evil setting. You had a big village. You had a briefcase as an item box. You had a merchant. There were so many callbacks to RE4, but it never managed to feel derivative. It never managed to feel like it was just riffing off of what has come before. And it was lengthier than RE7. I loved RE7, but let's face it, that game was super fucking short. There was quite a bit more meat to this game, and none of it felt like padding. And it also had, and Derek, whoever is going to pick RE Village as their Game of the Year, I will let them discuss House Beneviento. But all I'll say is that game gave me the scariest moment I've ever experienced in a Resident Evil game. To the point where I was like, this is fucking Resident Evil.
House
Holy shit.
Beneviento's not even in my highlights for why I love the game.
It's just that you're going to talk about Carl Heisenberg, aren't you?
I'm going to talk about many things about this
Okay.
wonderful game, but I am a contrarian to the end. So,
But no, Resident Evil Village, to me, it kind of brought the franchise into the modern age in a more cohesive way than Resident Evil 7 did. Resident Evil 7 was great, but at the same time, it felt like it was leaning too heavily on Resident Evil 1. And I feel like this was able to forge its own identity while paying homage to one of the most revered games of all time. So yeah, that's my runner-up for Game of the Year was Resident Evil Village. Why don't we go with, you know what? Let's just continue going to the right. Jeff, I want to hear your runner-up for Game of the Year.
My Game of the Year picks are funny because I only played like 3 or 4 games all year. So
Tony Hawk.
I'm here for this, actually.
It's not going to surprise anyone, like I said, because I've only talked about a couple games this year. So, my runner-up, and again, I think John laid out some of our criteria. We don't really care about criteria. It's just, what's the best games we played last year? So my runner-up is probably going to have to be Death Stranding Director's Cut, which is a port of I think a 2019 or 2020 game. I can't recall which, but I played it for the first time.
2019.
I played it for the first time last year on PS5, and I talked about it at length on the show. But I just loved so much about the game. My tastes have changed a lot the last few years. I'm over challenging games. I'm over shooting stuff in games. It's just like not really what gets me excited anymore. So Death Stranding being like basically a terrain and delivery simulator with some Kojima bullshit that I love, by the way, layered on top of it. Just made for a really special experience. Yeah, like I mean, it's a hard game to talk about without going really in depth because I couldn't even begin to explain it if I tried. But yeah, I just visually it's very striking, and it's just a really chill game in a lot of ways, especially as you get further. You get a lot of tools and stuff, and it's just something really simple and satisfying about just carrying shit across the country back and forth and delivering it, and kind of taking in the scenery and the reserved but still really good soundtrack that's in there. I never played anything like it, and I was like, I had it muted and tuned out because I was trying to stay blind to it until I was able to play it. I imagine it was probably pretty divisive, and I could see why, but I wish more AAA games would have the balls to do some of the stuff that this game did, because yeah, that's a lot of millions of dollars into something that a lot of people probably weren't expecting. So
Did you utilize the piss grenades?
you know what, John? I did not, and I also did not. I did not use the piss function at all. I don't think throughout the game.
Bro, what the fuck?
Dude, holy shit! Like, dude, fucking
That man was about to
support
bust.
bridges,
It
dude. Like,
wasn't top of mind. I don't know what to tell you. It just didn't.
you've given him like bladder poisoning.
No,
Like, how
yeah.
the like?
Well, you
you know-
see, you could take a 1 and a 2 in the shower, but that's different than
No.
the actual mechanic where you can
What
like
is
walk out into
happening?
the field.
Listen,
You can
Jeff,
do
and water
one of
some-
those two
Jeff,
things.
Jeff.
What?
I'm gonna tell you something. I
Oh,
don't
you
care
can do
how
both of
play-
them in the shower, and then
I
you
don't-
get
I
different
don't-
types of items from it.
I don't care how people play games, easy mode, whatever, bullshit. But you gotta piss in any game that gives you the option. You have to. Do
Yeah, you have
Any
to piss.
game that gives you the piss on, you have to do it.
you
That's
gotta
my
piss as
at this
often as you
point,
can.
You gotta piss on. If you can piss on command in a game, you gotta do it.
You gotta
Jeff,
piss, and you gotta piss everywhere.
All right,
like,
yeah,
piss on
you
the
know,
floor, piss on
I
the walls.
might have to boot the game
piss
back
on the
up.
piss on the cat if you have to. Like,
All right, Jesus
piss on
Christ.
the bed. Just piss everywhere. Because, dude, this is all about marking your territory. Okay, that game is your space. All right, and you've got to let the NPCs in that game know where you
is the
stand.
strand. Piss is the strand that marks.
This is what holds this podcast together.
What is happening?
I don't know. You
Anyways,
tell
that's
me.
my runner-up for Game of the Year. Thank you, everyone.
I support you, Jeff, in non-urine ways.
Well, I got nothing for that. Finn, what's your runner-up for Game of the Year?
I want to talk about piss.
Wait, CJ, did you just say I want to talk about piss?
Why?
Somebody quote that. I want to talk about
Don't clip that.
CJ.
Give
Don't
this
clip
man
that.
his dignity.
Don't
Yeah.
clip. Poor CJ. Don't clip that.
No, I
Don't
said
clip
quote it, not clip it.
Quote it. Sure, go ahead. Don't clip it, because
I said quote it.
yeah.
Finn, talk to me about your runner-up game of the year so you
Yeah,
can
Fizz.
release me from this fucking purgatory I'm in.
This piscatory he's in.
Oh
Sorry.
God. Well, again, because I am banking on someone else picking Metroid Dread as a game of the year, I am strategically not choosing it. So my runner-up will be Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart for the PlayStation 5 entertainment console.
I have not played this, although I've heard it's beautiful.
That's a you problem, sir.
Well, you know what,
you
man?
should fix it.
Why don't you fucking
because
convince me, Finn?
Ratchet and Clank was my favorite new IP back in the PS2 era, and that says a lot considering how many new IPs started in that generation. But Ratchet and Clank is still my favorite Insomniac franchise. And I love you, Spider-Man, but you're number 2. And this one was amazing. Like every game pushes the envelope for just the graphical settings, but it's always so much fun. I don't know how they always come out with more ridiculous weapons and more silly space shenanigans, but I really love the characters. Like the storyline is what keeps you going. The humor in it is so well done and just universal. It's It's silly and fun, and Dr. Nefarious remains an all-time great villain in video games. The new characters of Rivet and the new robot XJ something something. There's just everything about this game was rock solid, and it gives me hope that Insomniac will continue the franchise, because for a long time up before that PS4 remake, we didn't know what was going on with our little Lombax and robot buddy. But yeah, Rift Apart was dope. Like even though the Rift mechanic wasn't as integral to the gameplay as the name might suggest, it was still fun as hell. Like the Rift stuff was it also benefited from being, outside of Demon Souls, the only 2021 game for a while. Well, I guess Returnal. Whatever. My point is, there's not very many next-gen exclusive games. So many games so far have been cross-gen because of just reality. But Ratchet and Clank showcased what this next gen can do. And I say it at the beginning of every generation, like, if this is the bottom tier of what we're gonna get over the next couple of years, like, that's just fucking impressive, man. I can't wait to see where we go from there.
Honestly, I'm just really happy that they didn't do something stupid like name Rivet Ratchet, which I was like convinced they were going to do.
I would have been okay with that, because whatever, I don't care, because they would have found a way to make that cool. Multiversal shenanigans is always a winning bet for little old me. So, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, technically my number 3, but for the purposes of today, it is my number 2.
Well, speaking of Ratchet and Clank, Justin, I don't know where I was going with that, but that's the best I got.
Like, what was that?
He's calling, man.
I like the game. I did like the game.
You Ratchet as fuck.
No, I'm calling you beautiful because the game is beautiful, and thus you also, Justin, are beautiful. So why don't you go ahead and go next?
Speaking of platformers, let's jump over to Justin. You gotta,
That's good. That's solid, CJ.
That would have been better, but that's
John,
not what
give
we
up
got.
your spot.
Yeah, John, your throne has been usurped.
Okay,
CJ's
that's fine.
The face now.
Whatever, that's fine. He can be the face of the podcast.
No.
No, CJ, you're it. CJ, please introduce Justin.
Go. Justin, please talk.
Okay, so my number 2 was one that kind of came as a surprise for me this year, and it was Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to get a code from Square Enix to review it for SDGC, so I've talked about it at length before. I did a stream and stuff, so you guys might have seen me playing it then, but this was one that I had really written off before it came out. I was very unenthused by everything they showed pre-release.
John?
I was not looking forward to it, and then I played it, and it's fantastic. It has really great characterization and writing.
I love your stream.
I was super impressed with. Like, it's one of the densest scripts I think I've encountered in a game ever. Like, almost every single room and encounter has unique dialogue that's, really, really good characterization for each character. It was funny. They did a great job of like leaning into the Guardians' trauma and what makes them the way they are, and playing up the whole found family angle. It just really, really stuck with me, and it's honestly one of my favorite stories of the Guardians between comics and movies and stuff. It really, really won me over. And I was just so impressed by the voiceover performances and the script. It was a really, really great experience that has really stuck with me. And I really hope people check it out, because I think a lot of people also were kind of put off by some of the pre-release stuff. And this is published by Square Enix, which also did Avengers, which I know people were not as super enthused with. But Guardians is a really, really special, fun game, and I think people should check it out.
JSX team can do no wrong.
Well, and it's sold really well, right? I think it did better than people were expecting it to.
It's hard to tell because a lot of those were like on sale, not at full price.
No, that makes sense.
It sold a lot of units at half price, so
It had a
Now we
very
know
solid
Square
Black
has-
Friday.
pretty high expectations
Yeah.
for their game sales.
Square
So-
has this weird habit of their Western games get discounted so quick and so heavily, like, and then their Eastern games, their Japanese games never go on sale. Like, it's wild how they treat the different divisions to me, price wise. So
Also, hi Britt. I'm sorry I was talking while you made your
No,
grand
don't
entrance.
apologize. I was late.
I'm not sorry.
I know
Hi,
you're
Britt.
not. You never are.
He never is. He never
Mhm.
is.
Anna's first words were "Brit sucks," and I was like, "Damn."
Anna's
Good
first
job.
words were "Bring me Brit."
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah.
That's not true, Finn.
I think
Finn,
Britt
I don't
would
believe
know
you.
what Anna's first words are better than Finn would.
Probably,
sure.
yeah. Pretty
Actually,
sure.
she hit me up on Discord. She was like, "Man, can you tell John to stop talking about Final Fantasy VI for like 5 minutes?"
Oh, just wait till the Pixel remaster comes out next month. I'm not gonna
Not-
fucking shut up about it.
Not her dad, just John.
Finn's okay.
Yeah.
All right, who's going next? Actually, Justin, did you have anything else you wanted to say about Guardians of the Galaxy?
Oh no, that was it.
Okay.
There's a lot of, I guess, just to wrap up, like there's my number one was very clear for me this year, but like this was a year where there was a lot of other stuff that I was, trying to decide between to put in this slot. But I think that just the sheer surprise that I had and delight while playing Guardians really sets it in that slot for me. But there was a lot of really cool stuff this year. I'm excited to hear everybody else's picks, because like this is one of those years where it doesn't feel like there's one big thing that everybody could have been in. Like there's a lot of really good, choices for Game of the Year. So I want to hear what else everybody has to say.
Who went first? Who did I miss?
I think it's just you and CJ left.
John went first.
Yes, you and
He was Resident
left.
Evil Village. Derek was Metroid Dread. Jeff was Death Stranding PC. I was Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and Justin was Guardians of the Galaxy.
And these are runners up. These are our
Yes.
runners up. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so why don't we go with you know what? Let's go with Brit next, and we'll round it off with CJ.
So, I played a total of, hold on, let me count 3 games last year that I beat.
Jeff, you
3
played more
games
games
that I
than
beat.
Brit.
So I did not have to think real hard about this. So my runner-up is Boyfriend Dungeon. It was the first game I beat last year. Because for like the first 6 months, everybody knows I was engrossed in WoW, so that's pretty much all I did. And then Boyfriend Dungeon came out, and I was like, you know what, this looks really cute. I'm going to give it a try. Let's see if it can hold my attention. And it did, and it was super cute, and I was able to play through the whole thing. And like, not only was the dating sim fun, which is of course what I initially played it for, but just those tiny like dungeon crawl games. It's something satisfying about it. It was just, it was fun. I kept wanting to go back and play more, and it's one of those things where you go and you fight there's a boss every 10 or 20 levels or something, so you just keep going, and then if you die you have to start back at the either like the 5th, 10th or whatever level, and it was just really fun and cute, and it was a it's interesting seeing like who you pick, because they will call you out on like if you pick like the toxic douche just because he's hot, he leaves your ass at the end, so you get what's coming.
Is that who you picked, Britt?
No, it is not.
Who was your boyfriend?
Who was my boyfriend? I don't even
Yes.
remember his name. He was the Korean pop star.
Oh yeah, popular
Yeah.
choice. Yeah,
Yeah, he was a good
solid
choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like, he was super loving and attentive. I like maxed everybody else up to, like, I did all of the romances all the way max except for the one I ended up with. Like, I went all the way, but yeah, it was just really fun and cute, and it was a nice snuggly game to get back into as like a first like hop in console game. I just kind of
Snuggly, nice.
Yep, just laid in bed and played in my Switch Boyfriend Dungeon.
Awesome. That sounds delightful. Actually, is this a game, Britt, that I would be interested in?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, it's kind of what I figured. Okay, so
I
no,
do
that's
love
great.
how often it happens that like John's like, "Oh, would I like this game?" and we're all just like, "No."
You know, real quick, John, I think you would like Guardians of the Galaxy. I think you would appreciate a lot
I agree.
of that.
Well,
Especially being into comics and the
John, I'm gonna tell you something about Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay, here we
Tell
go.
me something about Guardians of the
Because
Galaxy.
I haven't finished it, but it's one of those games where I rarely play games for story, and usually I resent games that focus on story more than gameplay. It's arguably one of the greatest adaptations of any other like medium in games. It made me hate the MCU even more so than I do, even more than I do now.
Why would I want to play that? I love the MCU.
Oh man, but because these are it feels like this was written and like curated by actual people. It feels like there's some emotion. There's some like
CJ.
no, but
tell us how you really feel.
these characters are like they feel like characters and not quippy.
I respect the shots fired.
They're actually like people, and that's sort of what
I've heard
got to me.
several people say that Guardians of the
One of
Galaxy
it's a
the game
trees,
blows the
actually.
movie stuff out of the way. So
Oh, you're not wrong.
Yeah,
I mean, that's not
you're not wrong.
You know, I said the same thing about Avengers. That's the thing. Avengers is like storytelling and actual
Thank you.
characterization.
The Avengers game was good.
Fucking Troy Baker's Bruce Banner is like the best adaptation. Like holy shit! Like what? Why? Where was this? Where is this?
I was
anywhere
not
else?
expecting that. I was not expecting that because he
But
looked
John,
like.
But like but I will say, like, just to wrap this up, it's not a great game, but it's arguably one of the greatest like
Comic
comic
adaptations.
adaptations of any comic. Like it's up there with Burton's Batman or Raimi's Spider-Man 2 or you know Del Toro's Hellboy 2 is like this is the perfect like adaptation of any comic ever. It's in the upper echelon. Yes.
Okay. I mean, it's probably going to be a while before I actually like am able to play it, just because I've got so much on my plate right now. But I'll get around to it at some point in 2022, I'm sure. So we talked about our runners up for Game of the Year,
Well,
and I
CJ,
think we've
was
got
that
some
your
interesting.
runner- was that your
Except
runner-up?
CJ.
No, CJ hasn't.
Well, no, I thought he actually made Guardians of the Galaxy his.
No,
Okay,
no,
all
no.
right.
You just
People
wanted
off.
to chime in and be spicy.
Yeah, I want to chime in. I want to like let you. I want to convince you. Anyway, I have two runners.
Please,
up.
CJ.
Once per
I have
show,
to-
John has to bypass
Look,
somebody.
John loves to
yeah,
skip people.
I have two runners up, and the one of them is like we'll get a resounding yes, of course. So I don't care. I'll give the my real runner up, and that is It Takes Two. Talked about this game forever.
Yeah.
Since March, I've talked about this game. It to me, scholars in a few years are going to study this game like they studied Mario 64. This is where platformers need to go, in my opinion. Every 45 minutes, you're thrown some new element that doesn't feel out of place, that feels like it was crafted with this love of both video games and storytelling. It's the first time I played a game where the gameplay and the story felt like this perfect marriage. Ironically enough, because it's about divorce. I've said so much about it in like reviews and tweets and everything. But the biggest achievement for me of this game, or its biggest win, or it's the most points I can give it towards, is that when I got my review code, every night Christina and I would play it consistently. We've never played a game to completion. We only play Fortnite occasionally. We would play Animal Crossing occasionally. This was the only game her and I have played to the very end. And that's like the highest compliment I can give it. It is one of the greatest games ever made. What's his name? Jose Ferris. Arguably, I think auteur gets thrown around in games. It's kind of messy, but I think he truly is an auteur because he's doing something interesting when it comes to co-op and an actual like narrative in games. My other runner-up, fuck your no remasters rule. Mass Effect Legendary Edition, the first game.
Wow, all right, there we go.
Look, I never played Mass Effect. I played a lot of KOTOR, so that was like my only BioWare exposure when I was younger. So I've only played the first one now. Holy shit, guys!
Yeah,
I think I was absent for most of the discussion when the game came out because I remember wanting to talk about it. Just wasn't on the show.
Were you tweeting about it?
Oh my god! Look, I was expecting a jank 360 era RPG with a good story, and I got that for the most part. But I because
Love to hear that.
But its storytelling blows almost any other AAA game out of the water, especially for that era. It deals with things like racism. It deals with things like the consequences of like war and the consequences of colonization. The fact that you can call people out for discriminating against other races and species. Rex's whole Rex's whole arc.
We all know who you're talking about.
Ashley's not a person.
Killed Rex, bro. I'm pissed about that. But look, the fact that like Rex's whole arc was brilliant. It really connected with me because there's that one bit where you're talking.
Did you save Scum to not have him die?
No, I played through it. I didn't do anything.
Oh my god, why? You're missing so much.
Because I figured, no, this is the way the game's supposed to be played.
It's true, but
this is a big sci-fi epic. People are gonna die. I got to deal with it. Fuck it.
Okay,
but
I respect you.
And to wrap this up, there's this one conversation you have with Rex and Normandy. Optional, completely. Like the game doesn't force you into it. He's talking about his struggle and everything. I can't remember exactly. And Shepard's like, I forgot what it was exactly. I think she's like, oh yeah. She was like, I understand how you feel, or something, or similar to something I have. And Rex looks at her and says, it's like, don't compare your struggles to my people. Put the controller down. Holy shit! For once, every conversation I've had with white people, every conversation I've had with like people over the internet, just summarized in a 14-year-old game in a random like conversation chain, blew my mind.
Rex one of the fucking greatest. Gets it.
I don't.
He's my favorite character in the entire series. Like he's throughout all the games.
I don't think I'll go to Mass Effect 2 or 3. I don't want to. I personally just don't want to. I think I'm fine just playing this and this existing as like one of the greatest pieces of fiction I've ever like had the pleasure of experiencing. It's something truly special, and I'm glad I finally got around to it. Anyway, I'm done.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. That's awesome. I love hearing people talk about games like that. Like that's. Go ahead.
Just kind of building on that. Just one of my highlights this past year was actually seeing a bunch of people play Mass Effect for the first time.
CJ was my absolute favorite, watching him go through that.
It's a series that I've deeply, deeply loved for a really long time. And I had a lot of fun replaying it myself. But it was really, really cool to see so many people that had never actually played it before and had just heard people like me talk about it for so long actually get to experience it and love it as much as I did and other people I know have. Like, it's really cool to see a game actually be that timeless and be as good as I remember it, like to have that kind of impact on people. So that's been a really fun thing over the past year that brought me a lot of joy.
I'm sorry. I'm causing shitload of problems in chat.
Yeah, you're causing a lot of problems. And
I'm just thinking of that chart we threw around a long time ago where it's like causes problems on accident.
Causes problems, solves problems on accident, on purpose. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do all kinds of terrible things. I'm really all right. So we've been through.
No. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, Jeff, please.
No. I'm just the chat is a nightmare. Don't look at the chat. Our audio listeners.
Yeah, like seriously, trying to do the rest of the show now is going to be impossible.
Just a parade of thick rars over in the corner.
I felt like we needed to add a wild card into the mix. Sue me. So, at any rate, let's talk about our respective games of the year. And this time, I want to start with. Oh my God! Look at the chat.
So let's just keep going.
Yeah, let's do it. All right. Game of the year. This time, I want to start with Brittany.
Oh.
Brittany, right. I know.
Let's get this out of the way.
I want to get this shit out of the way.
Does everybody know what my what my game is for the year?
We know. I'm
curious. I think I've got an inkling.
It is critically acclaimed Final Fantasy XIV's Endwalker.
Oh, is that the one where you cannot play Heavensward?
You cannot play Heavensward.
That's right.
Sign up for the free trial.
Cannot have a free trial. You should have got while the getting was good. So 14 is, so after I left WoW, I went to 14, And I've always played 14. I played since 2.0. But I just kind of been off and on, and then ever since, the Blizzard stuff, I started playing 14 again. And I was really excited for Endwalker, and Jeff and John talked about, I talked to them about in our after hours discussion. Endwalker was kind of like up in the air whether or not I was going to like it, just based on how much I loved Shadowbringers, which was the previous expansion to Final Fantasy XIV. And this one absolutely delivered. It was really good. They did a good job of introducing new characters and making you invested in them. They added 2 really new fun jobs. The game deals with some really dark and heavy tones, and being able to fight through that, not just by yourself but with your friends, was something I really needed. And it's something that a lot of games obviously offer. What's you're a hero, but for some reason this one hit harder because essentially, without getting into spoilers, it's called Endwalker. The world is getting close to ending, and you have to save that. And I guess it just kind of hits home in this current state right now with the pandemic and everything going on. So it was a really good brain game for me to play, not just because I'm a big fan of the series, but because I did struggle this year with really bad depression, which is why I only beat 3 games. And why MMOs are kind of my go-to right now, because I don't have to put any thought and effort into it. So it was really nice to have that experience through an MMO. And it's the Final Fantasy XIV. If you're on the fence about getting it, it is one of the best story games I've probably played in the last 10 years. It's really good. It sinks its teeth into you. I love the characters, and I was really happy with how this arc ended, and I love the characters. I love Emmett Selk. He's my boy, and that's it. That's what I got.
I will say also, Britt, that Final Fantasy XIV has one of the nicest, most accommodating communities I've come across.
100%. And, that's something that even WoW players, like my friends who transferred over from WoW, they're just like, the community's so much more different. And I'm like, yeah, I know.
Everybody, like, if you, like, Jeff can attest to this. I know, like, if you go in there and you're like, hey, this is my first time tanking, for example, people are like 99% of the time, hey, don't worry about it, we'll walk you through it. If you need any tips, just let me know, blah blah blah. You
wipe, no big deal.
Like no big deal, no salt. Yeah,
like real quick example, sorry, just real quick, like I finished a dungeon I think yesterday or the day before, and I've been tanking for like a week and I have no idea what I'm doing. And like usually everyone leaves as soon as you're done the dungeon because they're just in and out to get their daily rewards or something like that. This guy like spent 5 minutes chatting with me and like giving me tips and stuff like that after we're done, which just like blew me away.
Yeah.
Like, I was like taking notes and stuff. I was like, wow, this is good. This is good.
And like they're not just like good for themselves, they're good for other people. For instance, I was tanking a dungeon and there was a DPS that kept pulling, and it was really hard for me to get hate off of them. And the healer was like, I'm not going to heal you if you're going to be disrespectful like this. And well, they ended up dying because of it. So it's like the community just looks out for one another, and that is just it's nice. It's fresh air coming from WoW.
Well, and Britt, I know that you had a tough year last year, and I just want to say that I'm very happy that you found something, a game and a community within that game that was able to help you kind of cope with a lot of the challenges you were dealing with last year. Yeah. That's very important to me because you're very important to all of us.
Oh, thank you.
And we love you. And we've all been through a lot, and we sit here and we joke, we laugh, but honestly, one of the things I love most about our Game of the Year conversations every year is that it gives us a chance to talk about really not just the games we love, but why we love games, period. And getting to do that with my family, which is what you all are, is the most important thing in the world to me. So just wanted to throw that out there for everyone.
Sean, do you mind if I go next?
Please, no.
So Britt and I were just chatting quickly because Endwalker was also going to be my game of the year, and I suspected it was going to be hers. But you know, I played a few games this year that I really liked. So I'll just weigh in real quick on Endwalker, my 2 cents, and then I'll kind of give a different pick. But basically everything Britt said, I think just. And this will also get the Final Fantasy talk out of the way for everyone who doesn't care about Final Fantasy. Shout out to CJ. But no, like it's
hey, CJ's looking forward to Stranger of Paradise. Like he's
Fuck
going
off.
to kill chaos.
Without a shred of irony, I am looking forward to that game. Any games I want to play, that's one of them.
See, the moment Jack turns around and says bullshit and puts on some fucking Godsmack, I was like, CJ's got to review this game. Like, yes, dude.
Go, Jeff, go. I want to hear about
Yeah, so I know, like, just real quick, everything Britt said, the writing in this game, especially, it just improves with every expansion, and I think Endwalker as a standalone expansion probably isn't my favorite. I think Shadowbringers is the high mark on its own, but Endwalker is kind of like, it's like the Avengers Endgame. It's like not just an expansion. It's like wrapping up everything from 10 years of story. And it's just very cool to see how the team constantly gets more experimental and builds on stuff, whether it's like dungeons or like their technical stuff. Like the zones are so big in this. And the writing is so good. The localization for this game, I don't play a lot of like, I play some RPGs, but I don't play a ton of Japanese games. But the English localization for this game is so good. The writing team is so good. I'm just constantly blown away by it. But
The voice actors, oof.
yeah,
they're so good.
Well, I'm playing the New Game Plus for the base game. I'm just going through the story again, just to see how it kind of like hits different after playing Endwalker. And man, some of the voice acting and like like they've gotten a lot better. No disrespect to anyone who did that, but yeah. So I loved it as well. But I guess if I would pick a different game of the year, probably my other favorite for 2021 would be Life is Strange: True Colors. I got to give props to Square Enix. They did provide us with a review code for that game. We did a review discussion and did some streams on it. I like the Life is Strange series. The first one, I think the last episode soured me on it. I love Before the Storm, but I think True Colors was, in my opinion, I didn't play Life is Strange 2, but of those three, it was definitely the strongest one. I loved the music, always a strong point with the series. I just love the atmosphere. I love the town they chose. I love the scenery. I love the characters. Again, as someone who's not big on like shooting or blowing stuff up in games lately, it was just such a nice. And I didn't play a game. I think I played Miles Morales in the spring, and I didn't play another game, even 14. Probably until like the summer. I went 6 months basically with only playing Flight Simulator, which I love Flight Simulator, but man, I needed something. I needed to get back into gaming. I wanted that feeling of waking up in the morning and like, I can't wait to play this game again. And while Life is Strange wasn't my favorite game last year, it was the one that got me back into video games. Because it kind of just, that's what I played that. Then I got Death Stranding. Then I got back to Final Fantasy. So I really appreciate what this game offered me. Like John said, we've all, been struggling. We're in a pandemic, and it's been a nightmare for me too, mentally. And I needed this game. I needed the message and kind of the humanity that this game brought. Definitely recommend it to anyone who's interested.
So I also want to say, Jeff, that I really loved your stream of Life is Strange. That was super chill to watch, and I really enjoyed it. I've just got one question. Are all the life in order to play Life is Strange: True Colors, do I need to play the first two to understand what's happening?
No,
they're all standalone.
There's one recurring character that's in the other one, but it's like I didn't even remember that they were in the other game.
Before the Storm is a direct tie, but Life is Strange 1, 2, and True Colors are
all
gotcha.
standalone.
Okay,
but even Before the Storm isn't imperative because I played the DLC and that directly referenced Before the Storm, but it wasn't anything.
Yeah,
I've heard the Switch port is solid too. I've heard it's a really good port on Switch. That to me would be, I feel like, the ideal, because I loved playing Ace Attorney on it. I feel like if you're going to play like a visual novel style game, like I feel like the Switch would be a good.
No, John, let me put it into a language you can understand. So Life is Strange is a lot like a Final Fantasy game, right? And Life is Strange Before the Storm would be your Final Fantasy X-2, so to speak. Whereas Life is Strange 2 and then True Colors are other Final Fantasy 13 and 15.
So then I have no interest in Perfect Storm. or Before the Storm or whatever.
I almost called it the after years, but
the after years.
I mean, it's not entirely a lie to say that Life is Strange: True Colors is a JRPG.
If you
True.
disregard Life is Strange 1 and Before the Storm, it's officially homophobia. So
And if you
All right,
disregard Life is
Derek
Strange
has made the
2,
declaration. We recognize
throwing
it.
that out there.
All right,
If you
I
disregard Life
recognize
is
it.
Strange
Yeah.
2, that's
it's
Latinophobia.
racism. That's just
great.
The
that's
same
just
thing could be
racism.
said for Final Fantasy 10 and 10-2.
Okay, so game of the year.
Probably,
I will go
yeah.
next.
Actually, no, John. Let me go next, just because.
You got to go next, CJ. Please, by all means.
Look,
No.
2021.
No, please about it.
2021 is a bad year for a lot of things. It's the year I gave up. What is it? You guys remember that scene in that sequence in Spider-Man 2 where Peter is like walking around New York?
Yeah.
Eating a hot dog.
Eating a
In that hot
hot
dog.
Raindrops keep falling on my head plays, and he's just like watching like New York like
Crumble.
because, and he's like, "Fuck it, I don't have any response." That's sort of been me with the video game industry. As it is now, I am like trying to keep my composure because I have completely resented the need to speak about games. So stuff keeps piling on, and at this point, 2021, I realized we don't always get what we want. We don't always get what we work towards. We don't always get the result of like that we feel like we should. And naturally, sometimes there are two ways you can go about it. You can either like dwell in it and just carry that weight, or you can find healthy ways to cope. So Life is Strange: True Colors, in a way, it sort of like taught me, hey, bad shit's gonna happen. You're not always gonna get your way, but
Right.
you can't let the past dictate where your future goes. And I always say, and as far as this game, I always say, if a game can teach you something and a game can like make you better in some way, it's deserving of every single accolade or every single like point or any high score. And that's sort of the thing. As soon as I rolled credits, I realized like, okay, shit. So the thing I need to take from this game is I gotta let go. Jeff and Brittany will remember this, but we had this whole conversation during our podcast. That ending, like Gabe's words to Alex, where it's just like you can't see to the future if you like hold on to the past. I think something like that hit harder than anything in any medium. I think I barely watched any movies. I barely read any books. And I just played games. I played games out of like an obligation because I had to. I'm like, fuck it. If I want to make it in this industry, I gotta play fucking games. So this thing that I loved, I ended up presenting. I haven't played any games in like months, but this is the one thing that stuck with me, and this is the one thing that made me realize, you know what? It's fine. It's fine. We just got to move on.
I also have the best fucking like little mini game. The D&D mini game was so fucking good.
The whole the whole like, or it becomes the JRPG in the middle of it for no reason other than like, fuck it, we're gonna go back. Like Square Enix is headlined on this. Let's do it.
Between Life is Strange and Hawkeye, it's a good year for LARPing fans. I'll tell you that.
It's such a wonderful game, and like I said earlier, I don't play games for story. I really don't. To me, gameplay is always king. But for once, I was able to sit back and like let something like affect me in a way that wasn't just because like its mechanics were good or its loop was good. This isn't Halo. This isn't Tony Hawk. This isn't just something that I'm going to play over and over again. This is something I can experience once and really let sit in. It nothing has come close to like feeling like it. And
was that your game of the year then, CJ?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, okay. Awesome.
100%. It represents the very best that games can be.
Okay, awesome. I'll go next. Okay, so my game of the year. I think we probably all saw this one coming. But my game of the year for 2021 is Pokemon Emerald.
Shut the fuck up.
No, it is.
It's not. He's bullshitting.
No, it is not.
I'm not. And I'll tell you why.
It's Pokemon Emerald for the times that we spent together as friends.
Together for extra life. Yeah.
Because the happiest moments I experienced last year was playing Pokemon Emerald with all of you.
Okay, guys, I changed my answer. Balan Wonderworld's actually.
No. Hold on. No, I'm serious. I'm serious
doesn't
here.
that go against your own rules at the beginning of no old games, no remasters?
Let me finish.
Okay.
the happiest I was in 2021, that hell year, was having all of my friends at my house and laughing and talking and spending time together and playing Pokemon Emerald and mourning over Texas Pete and
poor Texas Pete.
Poor Texas Pete.
Hey.
Peas.
Peas. More, who could forget Texas Pete or Peas? Or that was one of F in the chat. F in the chat, Toby. F in the chat for Texas Pete.
Rest in peace, Fincata. Never got to become Finjask.
Pokemon Emerald was my game of the year because every time I look at that game now, I'm going to remember one of the few moments in 2021 that brought me any real happiness or any real comfort. And that was spending that time with you guys.
John, I'm too high. You're going to make me cry.
And for that,
much like Extra Life.
because of that, those wonderful few days we all spent together, Pokemon Emerald is always going to have a special place in my heart. So that was my game of the year for 2021, Pokemon Emerald.
I respect it.
I don't.
It's kind of a cop-out. I'm
Cheating. It's a cop-out.
That's
But I'll allow it.
So you're going to
That's
take
fine.
Metroid Dread off of this?
Yeah, no one's going to have...
discussion?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, fine. I'll do Metroid Dread.
Thank you.
Jeez.
Guys, Metroid Dread is going to be mine.
Okay,
I'll sweep
good.
it.
Justin,
I'll
alright,
sweep
so-
it and save. I'll sweep it
Justin,
and save John.
Thank you for
now-
saving us.
so
You already
because-
tweeted your list. Your number one is Metroid Dread.
So I'll go ahead and
tweet a
talk
list.
about
What?
Metroid because Metroid Dread, of
No,
course,
Justin.
was.
Justin's going.
Go ahead, Justin.
Wait, why was Britt
Justin's
yelling
going.
at me? I didn't tweet anything. What are you
No,
talking about?
yelling at
Finn.
Finn.
I was yelling at Finn.
Can't even be sentimental on this podcast.
I
of
love when
nerds.
we have all 7 people on the show. It's absolute madness.
John's just trying to find karma over here. He needs them Reddit uploads.
He's ready to send us something cursed in the chat in about 5 minutes.
I would not do that. Justin, talk about Metroid.
Okay. Well, yes. So Metroid Dread, it's been a long wait since the last new 2D Metroid.
Real quick.
Too long.
Yes, Derek?
Go ahead, Justin.
Okay, sorry. He said real quick. I thought he was going to say something. Yeah. So it was 19-year wait, and we had not had a new Metroid game in that time period, and we also hadn't had a game that continued the storyline of Metroid. And we finally got one, and it was great. I mean, we talked about this game at length. I talked about it a lot on our review. Just there's been so many like games that have been influenced by Metroid the past several years. Like Metroidvanias have become a very popular genre, but there is nothing else that hits as hard as the actual thing. And I was worried that this wouldn't feel the same as the old ones. And like this was a Metroid game. It adds its new stuff in.
Yes, it was.
It has its own identity, but nothing else, kind of resonates with me in that kind of genre as much as the real thing. And so it was so great to finally get one again.
Yeah.
One that embraces that truly embraces that sci-fi horror. Which is just something that Derek touched on it with Metroid Fusion. Metroid Fusion toyed around with the concept of that sci-fi horror aesthetic, but Metroid Dread really just took it and finally completely embraced it. And you could I felt it had the same type of atmosphere that like an Alien movie or game would have. Just being pursued by an unstoppable force in the Emmys. To say nothing of the fact that Samus just felt like Samus has never felt better to control, Justin.
Oh
Ever.
my god, it's one of those games that from the first second I moved the character, I was already just like, this is gonna be great.
Oh yeah, it was so. Controlling her was just so smooth, and
She's never controlled better.
never,
So buttery
never,
smooth.
not once.
When you pull off the any of the speed booster parkour tricks you need to use to get some of the items, you feel like a legitimate badass.
Yeah. Well, and also like it's the little stuff like when you're firing your arm cannon and she stops for a minute. When you stop firing, she takes a second and then like adjusts her, like sets her feet, adjusts her footing. Like it's just little moments like that. Like little touches that really draw you into the world. It is like I've been wrestling with it, Justin and Finn, but I think Metroid Dread is the best 2D Metroid. I think it's better than Super Metroid.
I've actually come to that same conclusion.
I never thought I would say that.
I've thought
but
about
it
it
is.
over the past 2 months, and it is facts.
Justin, do you feel the same way, or is it, is it...
It's really hard for. I hate ranking stuff. Really, honestly, I really do. But Dread is definitely in the upper echelon. So also I was nervous too before it came out because over the past few years, like when Nintendo's tried to like bring back some of its older franchises or reinvent stuff, it hasn't exactly been successful for me. And Metroid is one of my favorite series ever.
Me too.
It's very formative for me in a lot of ways for games.
Tropical Freeze, Justin. I'm sorry.
And aesthetic and everything. So, the fact that this delivered as well as it had for me, just delighted me. I was genuinely nervous before this game came out. So,
can I say one thing about Dread? I think we're doing okay for time.
We have a lot of time. Yeah,
we're good.
We're like
good,
way
dude.
ahead of schedule, actually.
That never happens. God.
No,
You're
I just
welcome
wanted
for being late.
So I played like 4 or 5 games last year, and yeah, Metroid, and I've already talked about 3 of them. Metroid Dread was one. It wasn't. These kind of games aren't like. It's just not. It's not in my wheelhouse enough to really make my game of the year list. But I really liked it, and I wanted to kind of just say one thing I really appreciated is that because the big thing of this game that got a lot of talk when it came out is how hard it is. And even Justin, I think, was talking to me. Justin's like, Jeff, don't buy this game. Don't fucking buy this game. This is like the anti-Jeff game.
Keep in mind, me telling somebody to not buy a Metroid game causes me physical pain. But I'm just like, Jeff is going to be miserable. Like, this is like the anti-Jeff equation for a video game.
Just to kind of piggyback off that real quick, and then you can go back, Jeff. It was really interesting seeing people who haven't had a chance to experience Metroid yet play it for the first time, despite being how hard it was, continued playing it because they were having so much fun. I saw so much of that on my Twitter feed that it was like, Metroid, when that came out, like everybody was just happy. That was a happy time on Twitter, and it was just really nice to see that for like the week it was out.
I think
Before
one
the
of the
discourse
things that
started.
really
Just
helped
peace
with
briefly.
that was the quality of life improvements Metroid Dread put into the genre, which is the really generous checkpoints and save points, and
that
the
game is
fact
fucking
that
hard.
when you died, a button press, instant load back in to try again. Like I think if that game had long load times, the difficulty of especially like the ME sections, that's where a lot of people hit their roadblocks of progress because they're fucking challenging. And raise your hand, how many of you like lost your shit when you finally countered one of the Emmys and just wrecked their shit? It felt good.
It happened to me like twice.
That's the one thing I was going to say about the game is exactly what Finn just said. I loved the, because like Justin was saying, it's the anti-Jeff game. It's so hard. And I was like, and I did get really frustrated at some parts in like the latter half of the game. I do think it was just too hard. I wish there was like an easier difficulty or something like that. But it made me realize like, while I don't get enjoyment from really hard games, that's just not what I don't really look to be challenged by them. The thing I hate more than like just straight up really difficult things is games that don't respect my time and games that waste my time. For example, like limited save points like there is in like old JRPGs and stuff like that. If I've gotten to a point and then I die and I have to get back there, I already got there once. I can do it. I know I can do it. The game knows I can do it. So making me do that again, that's not hard. That's just wasting my fucking time.
Fantasy 6.
Again, a lot of games. But I really appreciated that Metroid Dread is really hard. But like every boss basically has a checkpoint the minute you enter the room. And so it makes kind of attempting stuff over and over a lot better when I'm not sure what's happening here, so I'm gonna move on real quick. But I just want to say that's the reason I got through the game, was that it respected my time, and it had some really nice accessibility options there in terms of like checkpoints and saving and stuff like that.
Wait.
Metroid Prime Dread is phenomenal, and everyone's already said it before. It's the queen has returned to reclaim the throne of the genre, and all I can hope is that the massive success of it leads to more, because I think the ending opens up a lot of really cool possibilities plot wise.
Hey, speaking of a lot of cool possibilities, Britt, did you see our new emote in chat there?
Texas Pete sure the fuck did.
Fuck yeah.
I think
CJ,
that's
please.
taking things a little far, but
I will say, because I will say that I will never play this game because I don't like Metroidvanias at all, even though it hurts me because I love Nintendo games. I love 2D games. But it is nice to see, in 2021, because like Justin was saying earlier, it's like there's no one singular, in 2020 it was like, all right, it's Hades or Last of Us Part 2. That's like the basic choices for everyone's like game of the year. This year it was like, what is it? The Game Award. It's true. Like everyone's pick was either Hades or Game of the Year or like.
he got so mad he disappeared.
He fucking just poofed.
This proves that CJ.
I want that to be an emote. Somebody screenshot that and make that an emote. Just see.
The eternal CJ mood.
Jeff's got it. CJ, what we learned on this podcast is that CJ was an AI. CJ was an AI the entire time.
Continue.
Oh fuck! Did I glitch out?
You did that entire time.
Yeah, sorry. I took the red pill. Took the red pill this morning. What is it? But okay, sorry. But like what I was saying, it's like it's really interesting to see that like a 2D Metroidvania game got the hype or like was like the headliner, right? What is it? A 2D Mario or a 2D Donkey Kong or a 2D Kirby would never be on that like on a pedestal like that. You get what I'm saying? It would never get the fanfare like that. The fact that a game like this was like a prestige title, the fact that it was up there like with your big AAA games, the fact that it was up there with like the Sony heavy hitters and it's incredible, I think.
Well, and that's, CJ, the fact that it held its own, like sales wise, like people for years have said, Nintendo's not doing anything with Metroid because that series has never traditionally sold great. Those days are done. Like I think you're going to see Metroid, like it's not going to be like the next Zelda or Mario, but you're going to
Mario,
but going forward, you're going to see Metroid take more precedence at Nintendo, which is great.
I think it'll be at that Kirby level.
Yeah, we're getting another 2D. We're getting another 2D Metroid, which it's just so good.
It was good to see Metroid fans eat after so long. They were starving.
So long.
Justin and I playing like Splitgate. And he's like, "Sorry, CJ, I gotta go because Metroid Dread unlocked."
No, literally, we were playing when it unlocked, and I'm like, CJ, this is my last round. I'm going.
I remember.
It was right at midnight that night. I'm like, I'm out.
Sorry, I don't even care, CJ. Like, I gotta go, man. Our friendship means nothing next to Samus.
You got it, man, and you got it. Man. I'm happy for you. I'm happy for you.
All right, who wants to go next?
Make Derek go next. He just had that brownie, and it's time.
Yeah,
no, it was a chicken fritter.
It was a chicken and cheese and garlic deep fried.
Sure,
fritter.
it was, buddy.
And then I had two little Lindt truffles. So,
Derek, sing us. No. Toss a coin to your Witcher Live, like you said in chat. No,
I won't do that to the podcast.
Do it for us.
No.
Toss.
But I will
Derek.
talk about my game of the year.
Sing about your game of the year.
I can't sing about my game of the year because I'm not talented at coming up with lyrics. But I will tell you about my game of the year is Resident Evil Village, which look, I struggled between this and Metroid Dread, and I love Metroid Dread.
So did I.
Do not get me wrong, but Resident Evil Village clicked like spiritually with me
Because of Tall Lady.
No, actually, no. Here's
listen,
the thing.
Maturing is realizing that the tall lady's daughters were where it's at, and I remember.
Actually, no. The tall lady is still where it's at.
Okay,
look,
that game came around the same time as Mass Effect, so you either got horny vampire posting or Mass Effect posting for me.
I'm just gonna say we saw your comments about Dimitrescu's voice actress during the Game Awards, so you're not allowed to say shit. But no, so here's the thing. Look, yes, mimetically, Tall Lady very good. But what's funny is
they fed us that game.
That game, like, in the end, Dimitrescu is so little to do with what I remember about that game. And what's funny is, like, John brought up earlier that, like, everyone talks about House Beneviento, and specifically the sequence in House Beneviento that very clearly has some, like, PT inspiration and turns into, like, an escape room type puzzle in one specific sequence that scared everybody. But I'm going to be weird and say that bit isn't what did it for me either. For me, when I think about what made Resident Evil Village click, Resident Evil Village worked for me for every reason that Resident Evil 4 did, which was it felt like a masterpiece of level design, of combat, of enemy design, of variety and in both enemies and environment. It felt like it was wonderfully paced in terms of constantly giving you small upgrades and giving you things to find. There's just enough little hidden collectibles in the environment to find and then turn around and sell and use that to upgrade weapons. Like, all of that is just paced and balanced perfectly. And every time you are just about to get bored and done with something, the game does something totally different than it hasn't been doing up until that point. From the very Resident Evil, like classically Resident Evil early part in the castle with Lady Dimitrescu, to the returning to the village on and off, the sequence with the werewolf thing leading up to getting the grenade launcher near the river is one of the tensest and most pants-shitting moments I've had in a video game in years. There is so much, I'm going to use the C word, content in this game.
Capital
Capital C.
Which I hate. But the thing is, like, Resident Evil games have tended to be kind of short. And it's fine because I love them. But especially after Resident Evil 3 remake, people were really worried, like, oh, these games are getting shorter and shorter. And, you know, the worries about a Resident Evil 4 remake potentially is like it's going to be cut into in less than half. And then Resident Evil Village comes out, and not only is it wonderfully paced and full of variety, but it really does stretch out for like a pretty respectable amount of time without overstaying its welcome. Resident Evil Village was like the talented lover of video games for this year. Is really, I just wanted to say that.
No, go on.
Yeah, no,
it's the Ted Lasso. It eats your wife's pussy.
Yeah.
Wow. Unnecessary, CJ.
No,
Damn.
completely. But no, just Resident Evil's like a big franchise for me. Like, I've grown up playing these games. I love these games. You know, it made Chris Redfield back into a character that people like were halfway interested in again. And
Speak for yourself.
Hold up. We are not about to speak ill of my thick himbo daddy. And that peacoat.
I will say
That coat fucking rules, dude. I want one of those.
Hey,
Derek, this is the first-
we've had enough pee talk on this show already, okay?
Don't say pee.
Keep your coats.
Let's
Wait,
talk about
what did I miss?
Oh man! All right, we talked a lot about piss earlier. Wait, Derek, I have a question. Genuine question.
Yeah.
So
There's a stream
Hang
of
on,
piss
CJ
discussion.
has a question for me.
This is the first Resident Evil game I picked up to launch. I didn't finish it, but I will say, it's interesting how everyone like talks about Resident Evil because it's obviously a franchise everyone grew up with, and if I assume everyone here was coming of age when the first two were coming out. Would you say that this is like one of the few franchises that actually grew up with you? Like,
I think it
grew up
depends.
alongside
I
you?
think what's funny is Resident Evil, Like, I can't go back to the PlayStation 1 Resident Evils.
Yeah.
I can't do it. But then the GameCube era, right? Resident Evil Remake, Resident Evil 4 are fantastic. And then I think you get into the 360 and PS3 era, and it's kind of a dark ages. Resident Evil 5's messy, and Resident Evil 6 is a fucking disaster. There's a reason this franchise went on ice for a while. But we've been in kind of a renaissance recently. I think 7 was great. I think the 2 remake was great. I like the 3 remake, even though I know a lot of people want to talk shit about it. I think it's more like this is a good franchise that was getting better and better and then fell into a hole. And it's found its way out, and it's found its way back to modernization, and it works. And I mean, me personally, Village is the high point of the franchise for me. I think it's my favorite game in the series, like above 4 at this point. So
Village is definitely like a top 3, I think, for me. I really, really enjoyed Village. It's definitely in my top 5 games for this year. I think it's one of my top 3 in the franchise. I just really loved the vibes of that game, like just that the kind of like gothic inspired Eastern European town with vampires and werewolves and all sorts of stuff is not the sort of thing I expected to see from Resident Evil, and they managed to work it in really, really well. And like, I just loved that location, and I loved walking around that world.
I have said it before, and I'll say it again. If we can get to 3,000 followers on Twitch, I will cosplay as Lady Dimitrescu.
So it's circling back around to the actual game itself. I couldn't play a lot of first person shooter games and just a lot of video games in general because of my ears, like having holes and surgeries and stuff. My equilibrium was off, so it was really hard for me to watch and play first person shooter. So I watched Zach play Resident Evil Village, and it was one of those games that, like, I feel like it reinvented kind of the new tone that they were setting, because Resident Evil 7 was just you go through the house, like, it's a survival horror, whereas like Derek said, Village kind of gives you more to do rather than just a linear path to the end of the game. You get to like backtrack and go back and try to get you got to kill certain fish, you got to kill certain chickens, and like just random little things that I think
and
just
like
enough
little things. It
right.
doesn't overdo it.
It's not enough to make you overwhelmed, but it's like you genuinely want to go do it because you're having so much fun. Like, you want to go back to these places. Like it's just, it was such a fun game for me to watch, and it had such a good story. It had good characters. It had like it had equal amount of spooky as there was like mystery. I think it was just a wonderful game.
And a good Resident Evil has, let me just say one quick thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
A good Resident Evil, a great Resident Evil, has a lot of Metroid DNA in it. Yeah. And a big part of Resident Evil Village, like a good part of all the best Resident Evils, is that feeling of having a map, having a bunch of area that you haven't explored, and finding out how to get everywhere and what's in there, and finding out that route of progression. And Village is exceptional at that. So, Justin.
I also really enjoyed that they weren't afraid to get super silly. Like, that was one thing that I was kind of wondering, Resident Evil is a dumb franchise, and I say that with the utmost love. Like, but
sure.
they got really, really cheesy and silly a couple times in 8 in ways that I wasn't expecting.
Ethan Winters.
And it was delightful. Like the game runs the gamut of like all types of things that Resident Evil has been, and blends them really, really well in a really modern way. And I loved it. It was delightful.
Heisenberg
also
is an unsung hero of that game.
Heisenberg. CJ, go ahead.
But like the thing, like that was like the point where I'm like, yo, this game's fucking great. From what I played of it, bro, he sounds like fucking Johnny Depp's interpretation of Hunter S. Thompson and Fear Loathing.
Yeah, kind of.
That's the thing. It killed me, and I'm like, no way, that's Raoul Duke. The exact same cadence.
He busted out Lycans and gentlemen.
This is backcountry.
He was a character I was not expecting to love, but by the end I was like, goddamn Heisenberg.
Oh,
Yeah, he
Heisenberg
stole
was
the show
actually the
from-
standout character for me.
Everyone went in ready to thirst over Dimitrescu, and then we found out we were all in love with Heisenberg.
Yep,
So
100%.
Dimitrescu still has better titties, but I digress.
Like I was
we
playing
didn't
like I was
see Heisenberg shirtless, so actually I'm not sure about that.
right, but see, here's the thing though. Like I was playing the game and Vicky walked in and she like and Heisenberg happening to she's like, "Oh, handsome."
Same with everything for the family, all right? Like,
And I'm right here, but okay.
You're no Heisenberg, John.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Heisenberg.
You got to get a pair of those glasses.
Heisenberg is see, it's a combination of
Those
the
little
the whole
tiny
Van
round
Helsing-
sunglasses. They
You're
work
right.
better than you are willing to admit. I'm just
They do.
saying.
It's the hat and the hair and the beard.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just fucking rocking
You
that
were
shit,
in love
man.
with my look when I came down to Virginia.
I was gonna say, I
and
don't
it
think
was-
anybody can pull it off better than you, Derek.
Yeah, and it was just those glasses and a
Hello,
long
Peter.
brown coat. Yeah. Hello, Peter.
Hello, Peter. All right, who's going next?
I think it's Finn, huh?
Is it Finn? Finn?
I think I'm the last one.
I believe it's Finn. Yeah.
It's Finn.
Well,
And you got 15
Wait,
minutes. You
finish
got
up,
15
Finn.
minutes. Take your time.
so
Finish this podcast up.
So Brittany wasn't here when I announced my evil ploy to game the system because while Metroid Prime is my game of the year, I knew someone else would talk about it, so I didn't pick it. Haha!
I feel like
So-
that's cheating.
It is, but I don't care.
No, it's metagaming.
That's
He's
back
good.
here.
actually, I had two runners up. I can't say
Yeah,
anything.
yeah.
Go ahead.
CJ busted out 2 in a row, so whatever. We're all doing what we want, and we're still under budget and under time, so I don't feel bad. It's actually so. Let's talk about Final Fantasy VI Pixel Remaster.
Oh shit! It's not out yet.
The two scanned pages from Famitsu magazine
Oh my
alone
God,
were the
Finn.
best.
And now I know we're not big on rules for the game of the year, but I'm pretty sure you cannot preemptively
You know
call
what?
something your game
No,
of the
fuck
year.
It doesn't
I'm
say
giving
anything
this
in the
one
rule
to
book.
Finn.
It doesn't say anything in the rule book that a dog can't play basketball. It doesn't say
Yeah,
anything.
I'm giving this one to Finn. Actually, Finn.
Please continue, Finn. I am all ears.
I
Fuck it.
kicked Britt off the show.
Finn, please, Finn. Let's talk about the fucking opera scene. Finn.
So as I was saying, because I bought the bundle of the Final Fantasy Pixel Remasters, I technically bought Final Fantasy VI Pixel Remaster in 2021, which means since I've purchased it in 2021, it counts as a 2021 game.
Absolutely.
So
You haven't
Allow it.
played it.
Oh, my blessing.
actually, Jeff, I am very confident to say I have played Final Fantasy VI.
Oh, fuck
So-
you.
Oh,
Absolutely.
If John can come out with some Pokemon Emerald bullshit, then okay. No. My real one is since it's not Metroid Dread, even though it is Guardians of the Galaxy. That was not only was my most the biggest surprise, the underdog of the year, whatever, because we all remember that E3 reveal. You know, I mean, and it didn't even look bad, but the reveal
It was
went
just
on for
too
so
long.
It just went on so fucking long.
Without music, it was painful.
Well, and the thing is like so much of the
The
game
one y'all
didn't
got
get
chewed out for
translated.
not liking.
Well, I did, but the point, whatever.
Derek.
The point is,
Derek's choosing violence tonight.
it wasn't the strongest debut, but
Jesus, Derek.
everything after that was so good, and I loved like the soundtrack was so interwoven. The fact that they went above and beyond and created a streamer mode where they replaced all of the licensed music with an in-house fake rock band called Star-Lord was just so good. And like Justin mentioned earlier, the dialogue between characters, the banter that never stops. It felt so authentic to the comics, to the movies, to the TV shows, to any of the media of the Guardians. And the stories hit hard. Like it won Best Narrative at the Game Awards, and I'm proud to say it was well deserved.
I'm sorry, but CJ's right though, Fid. Star-Lord just looks like an alt-right chode. Like, I
They
mean,
make fun of
That's
his
the point, though.
that's the joke.
That's
his
the
haircut
David-
is a punchline throughout the entire
constantly.
game.
He even mentions like maybe I'll actually change my hair. Like it's constantly brought up, but this is the definitive Star-Lord for me, and I'm a hardcore comic fan too. Also, the game is dripping in Easter eggs for comic fans. Like,
Oh, there's so many.
There's even a cameo by Throg. He's just so good.
Oh,
I need to actually play this game more then, because I'm like 2 hours in.
Yes, John.
We would
put
be
it aside.
remiss if we're talking about Guardians of the Galaxy. We would be remiss not to talk about like the standard it set for accessibility in games.
Oh, it had. I mean, that and Ratchet and Clank, both two of
Did
my
it
games.
set a standard, or did it
No, it
do
just-
very well?
Oh, it really did.
I don't know about standard because I think Forza Horizon 5 hit standard for this year, but this was a really good year for AAA games, like going the distance on that and giving a shit. But Guardians had incredibly robust accessibility options.
It really did.
And I will say, I don't think I'm alone in the announcement and going like, why the hell is this not a co-op game? And getting kind of like annoyed that the game was going to be a single player experience, but it works so well. The command system for commanding your characters and using their abilities and everything in combat was really well done. The huddle system was really well done. The elemental weapons and the swapping between them during firefights was really well done. The platforming was okay, but it worked in terms of like, I mean, no one's playing Guardians to be a platformer, but the plot again was just
no
so
Donkey
good.
Kong 64.
It's no Tropical Freeze, but you know what? It was better platforming than Balan Wonderland. No, it was actually better than Balan Wonderland.
I don't know. Listen,
It's like CJ's like, look, it's a far cry from Bubsy, but
listen,
you know,
Balan Wonder. I want to tell you,
it's no
Balan Wonderworld. I
Bubsy
mean, come
3D.
on. Listen, tell me what other game just like well, no, fuck, I'm nothing.
you can't, CJ, you can't even
Wrong.
keep up the facade.
Wrong. I'm not gonna talk about Balan Wonderworld.
Hell yeah, man.
You should. It's sweet content.
That's some good capital C content right there.
But I mean, I loved the plot. I loved the characters. I loved how like even the Soulstone was brought in. This is probably the best version of Mantis in any game I've ever seen. The voice acting, you could tell they were like trying to represent the movie versions of them, but put in their own spin on things. But I think H and every single character crushed it. Adam Warlock getting his not comeuppance, but his due, you know,
His
like
due. Not as comeuppance is a bad thing.
that's why I said not. But
Okay.
I mean, again, I could just go on and on about all the little bits and pieces of the game that really killed it. But if it wasn't for Metroid Dread, Guardians would have been my out of nowhere left field, like going up until when I bought it, because I was gonna get it because I'm a comic based game just person and I'm gonna support them. But the Deus Ex team is just so good, and I'm so proud of them.
What I hope is that like the next game they make, they just make the Marvel version of KOTOR.
Yeah,
Just go put
Fuck
all
it.
their RPG like skills into a game and just give me like Deus Ex, but like you fucking play with a talking.
like I'm
raccoon.
torn. Like, do I want more Guardians? Because the Marvel cosmic scene is so criminally underutilized, even in comics
Howard
themselves.
the
Like,
Duck Ace Attorney clone. That's what we're gonna get now.
also
Yeah.
Cosmo, Cosmo got
Yeah.
his due in this game. Cosmo came up and got his love.
Okay,
And-
I'll play this game, y'all.
Play the damn game, Derek.
Yeah, no,
I have it.
there's some
I have it. I just haven't
there's
I
played
some-
it.
have it. I played
There's
it
some
for
really
2
great
hours.
deep-
Vicky's playing it actually.
Is she?
Yeah.
Good for her.
Can I chime in real quick and just
Yes, you
say, like Finn, you mentioned, I think Justin was hinting at it too. Like, there's a lot of like really like comic-y stuff in it. But as someone who doesn't read comics, like my exposure to comics is the MCU and the Fox X-Men movies, and that's it.
Oof.
It's like you don't need to like. I loved this game, and as someone who really loved the MCU Guardians, this kind of ruined it for me. Like I think like Drax is very similar to the MCU version, but like I cannot fucking watch like
heard it
MC
here,
Star-Lord ever again, because this version of Star-Lord, I know we were just talking about his hair and people give him shit. This version of Star-Lord, when you play the game and you get all the character development there, and the voice acting is phenomenal. I absolutely loved this take on him.
I honestly think that this
James
is
Gunn's a hack. SDGC stamp of a fucking improvement.
I'm not gonna say that. That's rough.
I do
You've
think that
lost
this
me.
is my favorite
lost me.
take on both Star-Lord and Gamora that I've seen.
Gamora's
and
really
the,
good too.
And the others are at least
It helps
as
that Gamora
good.
sucks real
as
bad
the previous
in the
one.
movies, so.
I mean, honestly, the biggest criticism I've heard about the game is just the combat, and not that it's bad, just that it's like nothing to write home about.
It's fine.
You know, like
So far,
Yeah,
it's fine.
My complaint about Guardians was the lack of diversity in the cast. The voice actors were all white people, and it's really unfortunate because they could have easily cast, people of color in those roles.
You guys
And they
remember
didn't.
when Avengers got announced and they're like, "Oh yeah, here's the cast," and it's like, the fucking Wonder Bread like tree.
Laura Bailey.
Yeah, like,
I've never seen Laura Bailey in a game
Troy
before.
Baker.
Glad she's finally getting her shot.
up and coming Nolan North.
They could have
The
avoided
thing that was
so much
frustrating with the
shit.
Avengers
They could have
2 is
avoided
that, like,
so much shit if they had just been like, yeah, the main character's Kamala Khan from the beginning.
Yeah, like that's
but
the thing that's really frustrating about
it's
the
like they were
Avengers thing. is
embarrassed
none
about
of
it in the
them
marketing. Like,
Yeah, none of them
But
were the
yeah.
actual lead in the game.
You know what? Guardians was so good that it makes you just be like, well, good thing Avengers is also around because now we have this. And I don't know where I want them to go. Do I want a sequel? Do I want them to tackle other Marvel characters? Do I want them to do something completely different? Like
Long is the game.
Well, I mean, the reason that
the
they didn't.
game is about 15
next
hours
wave.
long. If you
That's not
just
too long.
play
That's
through it.
not 500 hours, so that's good.
Let's be clear about the marketing for Avengers, by the way, since it was brought up real quick. Like, the reason they didn't openly market the fact that Kamala Khan was the main playable character is because you guys know what would happen. A bunch of guys would get on social media and be like, "I can't play as a woman in a game. My dick will fall off."
Look at just yesterday, a brown woman announced that she was the voice actress for a popular anime coming to English, and anime fans lost their shit. Like, you can't. Nerd spaces don't like melanin. I don't know how else to put it. Like,
I mean, yeah.
And the best thing we can do is give these people fucking swirlies over and over.
After I've had a big bowl of shrimp gumbo.
Oh man.
I wouldn't do that to anybody.
Oh, I would. There's a few people. You don't know what happens to me and my tummy after gumbo.
I'd like to not talk about John's biological functions if we can.
Happy game of the year, everyone.
Happy game of the year to those who celebrate.
Before we go, I want you guys to make predictions. What is going to be your game of the year for this year? And then we'll go back and see if
you're
it's
gonna
going
make me say that shit now.
I like it. Yeah,
With the amount of
predictions.
completely legal
You think
substances
it's gonna-
I have imbibed.
That's a great
what do you
idea.
think it's going to be your game of the year?
All right, that's a good idea.
I have
I've
Lord of the
And we
Rings Gollum.
We can go a little.
Shut the fuck up.
You know what?
Abandoned. Okay, it's gonna be abandoned.
It's our show. We can go a bit over time if we need to. This
Yeah,
is a
we're
fun
fine.
topic. Let's do it.
Hurry up. You don't have
Okay.
to really go into it, but just like hit 'em
Final
up.
Fantasy 16.
That's mine. I'll go
Okay.
something different then.
Mine's going to be Horizon. That's going to be my game of the year.
Mine will be. It's two. It's gonna be Kirby or it's gonna be Suicide Squad.
Ooh, okay.
Ooh.
Kirby, yeah. When Brit said Horizon, I saw Justin go, "God damn it!"
No, I'm gonna be sweating. There's a new Horizon and a new God of War coming out this year.
I forgot about God of War. It's going to be God of War. Sorry, Horizon, God of War.
I'm gonna be sweating so much when it comes to like game of the year time, like between those two.
I retract mine. It's Street Dreams Elsewhere. Next, go, sorry, Justin.
Oh, She Dreams Elsewhere looks fantastic.
Yeah, there.
Keen.
Yeah, but
who's going next?
Forsaken, though. Oh, no.
You mean Forspoken?
Yeah.
I'm thinking Forspoken. Forspoken
Listen,
is looking
I've
like
been
some
drinking,
Dragon's
so we're
Dogma
gonna
energy.
give me a pass.
Justin, yours is gonna be GT7, the actual best PlayStation.
oh yeah.
Jeff, what about
you? Melatonin in the game.
That is, I've talked at length with CJ about how just boring I find even looking at that game.
Oh shit, Elden Ring though.
Gran Turismo.
Jeff, go ahead.
I'm looking at a list because I honestly can't think of a game I'm looking forward to.
Okay, so what did you're in the fantasy league. What did you pick as your games?
I pick games that I think are score well, not the games that I want to play.
Yeah.
Jeff is aware.
I mean, you guys know I'm gonna play Gran Turismo 7, but like my game of the year is usually like story games. But that's
Jeff is galaxy brain over here.
yeah. I literally I'm looking at the list. I can't see a game I want to play. I guess the Life is Strange Remastered collection.
Jeff's gonna play Minesweeper and make his own stories.
Yeah. I hope some new games get announced because 2022 is looking pretty rough for me right now.
Not even Final Fantasy 16.
I don't think it's gonna come out this year.
It'll come out I'm pretty confident.
I hope it
it's a
does.
holiday game.
Now,
Look, since we're predicting games that we think and hope will be out this year, and John took Final Fantasy. Oh, sorry, go.
No, I'll let you go real quick. I just realized Starfield. Starfield has a date. It's supposed to be.
There you go.
I know people are split on Bethesda. I love Bethesda games. I love Fallout 4. I love Skyrim. I love space shit. So Skyrim and space sounds great to me.
John or Finn, why have none of you chosen Triangle Strategy?
Because I'm more excited about Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair,
let's just be honest.
Triangle Strategy, I can very comfortably say will automatically be in my top 10.
Triangle Strategy be my top 3.
See, but again, I'm gonna go like John. Like I'm gonna go with the game that I'm willing into
Yoshi P is involved, so I get it.
It's gonna come out this year. I'm willing it into existence.
Me too.
We're gonna get a Hollow Knight Silk Song. It's gonna be my game of the year.
2023 is gonna be Final Fantasy 16. Calling it now.
Or
calling it now.
Or Sea of Stars. Sea of Stars.
Ooh, Sea of Stars. That's on my game list.
Sea of Stars is a good choice too.
Mm-hmm.
Derek, what's your pick now?
The game I'm going to enjoy most in the year 2022
The game of life
is the Fire Emblem game that hasn't been announced yet, but will be coming
that's
out.
100 coming. Yeah, that's coming.
But it's coming out in Q3 of 2022.
That is 100% coming out this year
I
for
can
sure.
say the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3.
No, see, Derek, I can't even tell if you're joking or not because I think that's being
I'm
announced.
fucking not.
He's not.
You know what? All that matters is we all.
Nobody said Zelda. I'm surprised.
Yeah, I was gonna say that
Because Breath of the Wild was
I
a
don't think it's
bad
coming out.
game.
Breath of the Wild. Yeah, thank you, Derek, for speaking truth into existence. Breath of the Wild 2 is
Breath
just
of the
gonna be
Wild was
more
not a
of the
bad
same
game.
garbage.
It just didn't cater to me. Breath of the Wild was an excellent game. I just didn't like it.
Boom.
I'm sure. Finn, you should say it again. I'm sure people love to hear it.
Breath of the Mild 2. Am I right?
Straight up, man.
I would like to revise my choice. I think my 2022 game of the year will be Spider-Man 2 because as per Finn's criteria, I believe it will go up for pre-order later this year, and I will be able to purchase it. So that's Spider-Man 2 will be my game of the year.
You can go online and look at pictures of the game, so that counts.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it looks
There's
really
a
good.
trailer. You can see moving video of it.
To be fair, I've set the precedent, so it's fine. I'll allow it.
Yeah, bro, I can fucking say, yeah.
All right, so just to
Final
recap,
Fantasy 6 Pixel Remaster.
Derek,
Yeah.
Fire Emblem, John,
Absolutely.
Final Fantasy 6 Pixel Remaster.
No, Final Fantasy 16.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, 16.
One of those numbers.
Final
It's-
Fantasy
it's the
6, and then the
six and
syllables
it's the
afterwards
same.
don't matter.
What-
It doesn't matter after that.
Jeff is Spider-Man.
Real answer is Starfield.
Starfield. All right. Well, fuck the last 3 minutes we just had. All right. Finn is going to be Final Fantasy 16.
No, I said he chose it, so I went Hollow Knight Silk Song.
I'm just fucking with Brit now.
Chris.
Did you not hear anything
Justin
I
is
said?
God of War.
Yeah.
Well, I can't decide
So
between.
anyway,
Breath of the
guys, let's talk
Horizon.
about piss.
Oh, God.
CJ, what was yours?
Just DM'd me and told me it's Breath of the Wild 2.
I have 3 potential ones. It was She Dreams Elsewhere, Suicide
right.
Squad, and Kirby. I think of all of them, I think it's gonna have to be Kirby. I'm gonna spend. They just showed
Kirby's
off-
gonna be
like,
magic.
I'm gonna put in like 200 hours in that
The
game.
last Kirby game wasn't that great. So
The last Kirby game was one of my favorite
But
games.
this one has another D. So
Yeah.
CJ,
Star
what about
Allies
secret
was
option?
good. It was not Planet Robobot.
No,
What about
the
secret
Edit
option number
Allies too.
4? Battle in One World 2.
Yeah.
Battle Royale 2 will probably be like the Godfather 2 of like 20 of like games.
My game of the year is the new Star Fox that I'm sure will get announced and released this year for the
My
Nintendo
game of the
Switch.
year will
That's
be
not
the new
happening.
F-Zero, which
That's not
I am
happening.
guaranteed
F-Zero
is
GX2.
coming.
F-Zero GX2.
Brent,
very
are
much
you
looking
God of
forward.
War or Horizon?
I cannot wait for Half-Life 3 to be.
It's gonna be God of War.
Be my game of the year.
The only reason why I picked God of War is because Horizon was my top PS4 game, and then I played God of War, and then God of War took it over. So I'm excited for Big Boy Thor.
Polybius will be my game of the year 2022.
Thor is a thick boy. He's a thick boy.
We've
got a little bit of that.
What's funny about that whole thing?
We gotta go.
Oh, it's only 5 minutes over.
I'm drunk.
All right, let's go ahead and end it here. Don't forget, let's get some Nightbots on the chat. We got a Discord with over 350 people who are super wholesome and inappropriate, just like us. There's an oxymoron. And you should absolutely join our Discord because we are fucking great. We've got some awesome merch there. We've got women's tees, we got men's tees, we got mugs, we got hoodies. And
John, where does the money for our store go to?
Every single dollar. Britt, I'm so glad you asked. Every single dollar that you spend on any of that fine merchandise you see in that store goes towards numerous charities such as Black Girls Code, Take This, and the Trevor Project. So please, go buy some merch. We don't get a single dollar from it. Go spend some money on all those wonderful causes and look really good at the same time.
And it's comfy. It's really, I wear that shit all the time.
Shit. I'm wearing it right now. Look at that shit. Look at this. This shit is comfy as hell right here.
I got Geralt on my titties. I figured that sets the precedent.
I'm so jealous of you.
Absolutely. Who doesn't want Geralt on their titties? Mm-hmm. But you should also get this. We're going off the rails now. Anyway, buy all our cool merch, support some great causes, join our Discord, and of course, check us out on all major podcast services. Our 2-part Endwalker review with myself, Britt, and Jeff just went up.
Spoilers.
It's heavy spoiler warnings. That's right. And guys, let's all hope for a better 2022. We'll see you next week. Remember, kindness costs nothing. Take care of each other.